Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I cannot believe we are finally filming this video because it has been weeks and weeks and weeks in the making. I have been telling you guys that I've been working on a part 2 of my original self-tanner showdown video because ever since I posted that, I have had so many requests to do an updated version with new brands that you guys were interested in. So that is what we are going to be doing here today. This type of video is truly the longest type of video to film because obviously I can only wear one self-tanner a week. So I've been working on this for no joke over 12 weeks at this point, I think. So we're gonna cut it off here with the self-tanners that I have sitting in front of me. And if we need to do a part 3, of course we can do that if there's other brands that I didn't cover. But I feel like I have a lot of the brands that you guys asked about in this video, like St Tropez, Mind Tan, Bali Body. I always forget this. Bondi Sands. A lot of you guys wanted to know about that. Isle of Paradise. We have a lot to get through. So if you guys would like to see application of all of these, see how they develop on the skin, what the color looks like, how even the color is, hear my thoughts on the smell and how they fade and how long they last, then you've come to the right spot because we are going to touch on all of those things. I'm incredibly picky about self-tanner. I have rated them across all of those categories, and I am here to let you guys know my thoughts on which ones I think are the best and the worst. Before we jump into it, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. Both of those things really help to support me to make sure that my videos are actually pushed out in the YouTube algorithm, so thank you so much for doing that. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Username is right here, and my Lightroom preset filters for editing Instagram photos are listed in my description box below if you're interested. All right, let's jump into it. Really quick, because I feel like I'm gonna get questions on all 3 of these things. My favorite self-tanning mitt is from Amazon. So sturdy, works amazing, and lasts forever. I will list this below, of course, with these other items. The brush I use to help to buff out any areas that got a little bit patchy or to apply to my hands and feet is the Morphe M439 brush. Great, affordable, gets the job done. And my favorite body moisturizer, honestly just all year round, but also to help to preserve my self-tan color and make it last longer, is the Cetaphil Body Moisturizing Creme. This feels like heaven, and I really do feel it helps to make my self-tan last longer. So would highly recommend all 3 of those for a more seamless application process. If you want to see my weekly self-tan routine, I filmed a video on that last year. I'll list that below as well if you want to actually see my secrets for getting a flawless self-tan. Okay, first we have the Isle of Paradise self-tanning drops, and I actually posted a dedicated review on this brand a couple months ago now. So in that video, I show you how this dark shade right here compares to the medium and light shade. I also talk about really specific things for application, like the number of drops I use on each section of my body and the lotion that I specifically like to use with this because it is different from that Cetaphil cream. So if you want to just know more in depth about this specifically, I will list that video below, but we're going to be talking about the dark drops today because everything else that I have here falls in that dark color variety. So because these are self-tanning drops, and it's obviously a very different experience than applying a self-tanning mousse, I will say that at first it's just a little bit intimidating to get the hang of. Like, feels kind of like it's not going to develop quite right. It's a little bit nerve-wracking, but after that, I feel like ease of application is a 5 out of 5 for me because it's such a hassle-free way to apply self-tanner, especially after trying a million, it feels like, self-tanners at this point that have a color guide and have the mousse that you have to apply with the mitt. That whole process is such a hassle, so just being able to mix in drops with your body lotion and then go to bed is the best thing ever and feels like so much less effort, even though of course you still do want to be careful with the number of drops you're using and things like that, but I think it's 5 out of 5, goes on great, no issues. The next 2 categories that I have listed here, definitely more applicable to self-tanners that do have a color guide or are mousses that you have to apply to a mitt, and they are drying ability and color transfer. So there are definitely certain self-tanners that I use that will just remain sticky and wet on the skin and they're not super comfortable. And there's also a lot of self-tanners that will transfer a lot and that color guide will get kind of all over. But because of this type of formulation, I would give both of those things a 5 out of 5. Now for smells. So the formulation itself, pretty unassuming, maybe kind of has like a light floral scent, but once it's rubbed into the skin with lotion, I can't really smell anything too specific. It does start to have that kind of signature self-tan smell as it starts to develop, and even after I shower for the first time, kind of has a lingering smell for about 24 hours after that. I will say though that it's not nearly as potent as other self-tanners that I've tried, so I would actually rate it like a 4 out of 5 because it's there, but it's really not too bad. I have let this develop on my skin from anywhere between about 7 to 10 hours, and I would say about 7 hours it hits its max color. That doesn't really bother me with this though because it's just mixed in with my lotion, and again, I don't have to rinse off a color guide or worry about that, so I don't have a problem with that. But about 7 hours for me does get full color, and then after that, this is the color that I end up with. And I would give this color a solid 4 out of 5. I think that it's really good, but again, just because I have tried so many self-tanners at this point, I know that it's not my personal favorite. I've tried others that are darker and I think just give me more oomph when it comes to the color, maybe look a little bit more natural, but I still do think that it's great. So 4 out of 5 is a really good score. Fade for me is a 5 out of 5 with this. It doesn't go splotchy, no issues there, and it lasts a good 6 to 7 days. So I would give lasting time a 5 out of 5. All in all, I love this product. I actually would be excited if they came out with an even darker shade than this, just to try that out, because you could get this to be darker than I showed you guys, but you would need to, of course, add more drops, which is going to make you go through this product more quickly. So maybe they will do that at some point, but I would 100% recommend this brand, especially if you're someone that just does not like the hassle of self-tanners. This totally takes that away. Okay, let's move on to Bali Body. So I actually have 2 different self-tanner formulations from them that I wanted to share. Let's start off with, excuse me, sorry. The one that is definitely more popular and has been around longer, which is their self-tanning mousse in dark. Ease of application here, I would probably give like a 4.5 out of 5. It just doesn't get a perfect rating for me because there were certain areas on my body where the color kind of clung together, and I did need to use a brush or be really careful with my mitt to go back over and blend that out to make sure that it wouldn't end up looking streaky. But other than that, no major issues. Drying ability, I would say, is 4 out of 5 because it does not dry down instantly. It does probably take, I don't know, like 10 to 15 minutes to be completely dry, but then after that, it does dry down. And color transfer, any self-tanner like this that has a color guide is just never going to get a 5 out of 5 for color transfer. I would say the things that I look out for are formulations that are extra wet, that are going to cause this to smudge onto your couch or clothes or a blanket that you're using while it is developing. Any self-tanner that has a color guide that's this intense is going to naturally transfer onto your sheets a little bit, at least while you're sleeping. So I'm not gonna knock that for those things. That's just the nature of a color guide, but this I would probably give like 4 out of 5 because no major issues with it. It's not something that's extra wet or I feel like is smudging all over my tables. Just a good 4 out of 5. This formulation kind of smells like hairspray, which is a little bit weird, but it does not remain on the body, so it's not like you're gonna smell like hairspray while you're wearing this. I just thought that was kind of interesting. This does smell while it's developing, and it also does smell for about 24 hours after. Similar to Isle of Paradise though, it's definitely not nearly as intense as others that I've tried, so I would give it a 4 out of 5 for both of those things. I let this one develop on the skin for about 6 hours, and then that gets me to full color. I would also give this color a 4 out of 5 for similar reasons to Isle of Paradise. It's a nice dark color. I have tried others that I just prefer more than this, and this one definitely does lean a little bit warm, so if you have warm toned skin, then that will look great, but if you have cool toned skin, it may end up pulling a little bit more orange on you than you would prefer, so just be aware of that, but it's not something that I think looks like Cheeto dust on the body. It's nothing like that. Fade for this, I will give a 4 out of 5 because I didn't have any issues with this dark shade specifically, but for their ultra dark version, I did notice some splotching around my neck as it was starting to fade, which I just found interesting, so I just wanted to make sure that I was calling that out in case any of you guys were curious in that shade specifically. And I would give lasting time about a 4.5 out of 5 because I feel like I get a solid 6 days, but no longer than that. The other Bali Body formulation that I have is their 1 Hour Express, and I would give this one a 5 out of 5 for ease of application. The formulation is totally different than that mousse, and I actually love this. It kind of reminds me of shaving cream. It's definitely just light and airy and whipped, and it's so easy to apply. It just glides on the skin. I really love application with this. And I would actually give the drying ability a 5 out of 5. It pretty much instantly dries down on the skin and has no remaining stick whatsoever, which is amazing. And I would give color transfer for this 4.5 out of 5. Again, I can't give it a perfect score because it has a color guide, but at the same time, this is the driest formulation that I've ever tried that does have a color guide. I really don't have issues with this transferring, so 4.5 out of 5, and this does have all the same kind of smell characteristics as their mousse. So smells a little bit like hairspray, a little weird, and does smell while it's developing and after. So I'd give it a 4 out of 5 for all of those things. What I love about this is that I only have to leave it on the skin for about 4 hours in order to get max color, which is amazing. Even though it does say 1 hour express, I've said this before, I just have never left a self tanner on for only an hour and had it be as dark as I wanted it to be and last as long as I would want. And if I'm gonna go to the hassle of self tanner, I'm gonna leave it on to get to the full color that I wanted to develop to. And I love that I only have to leave this on for 4 hours. So that is great. And then this is the color that I end up with. Oh my goodness. This color I give a 5 out of 5. I was immediately obsessed with this. It is just perfect in my opinion. Nice and dark, but not too intense and just not over the top. So pretty, the actual tone of it, because while it does lean warm, it doesn't look quite as orange in my opinion as their mousse. I just think it looks more natural. Everything about it is perfect. I seriously love this. One of my all-time favorite colors for a self tanner that I've ever tried before. Both fade and lasting time get a 5 out of 5 for me. For whatever reason, this one actually seems to last a little bit longer than their mousse. It lasts, I would say, closer to 7 days. Obviously you do get some color fade before that, but lasts longer. This one's amazing. Also, if you were curious to see the ultra dark Bali Body plus their light formulation, which actually doesn't have a color guide, I have a video reviewing all of those products where I show you before and afters as well. That will be listed below. Now we have the Mind Tan Body Skin, what is this even called? Rejuvenating Treatment Wonder Tan. Ease of application here, 5 out of 5, really nothing major to call out. I would give the drying ability and the color transfer a solid 4 out of 5 because it does not dry down instantly. It's not nearly as lightweight or kind of traceless as something like this, but I didn't have any major issues with it. The smell of this is super interesting because I feel like the formulation itself has that signature self-tan smell where you're like, okay, I'm gonna smell this on myself, but I never really did. Like while it was developing, it never really started to smell. 24 hours after I showered, I feel like I still couldn't really smell it on myself. So for whatever reason, this one on me just does not really have a scent, which is amazing. And this one, again, it says it's a 1 hour express, but I feel that I get max color in about 5 hours. And then this is the color that I end up with. I would probably rate this one a 3.5 out of 5. I don't think that it's bad, but I'm just trying to kind of compare to all the other self tanners that I have and rate according to that. So it's just a little bit too orange in my personal opinion. And I do like something that leans a little bit more neutral than that. But other than that, I didn't have any issues with splotchiness while it faded. So I'd give that a 5 out of 5, and it lasted 6 days on me and really not any longer than that. So I would say that that's about a 4.5 out of 5 in my book. A true 5 out of 5 perfect score for lasting time means that it lasts 7+ days. So didn't get quite full 7 days, but 6 days is still really great. The only other thing about this that just did not quite work out for me is that it made my skin feel pretty itchy after wearing it. I'm not really sure why that was, which is a bummer. So this is not personally one that I would wear again because of that. I do have very sensitive skin though. I mean, my body's a lot less sensitive than my face, but I have definitely tried self-tanners before where I get that itch. One that I tried for my last self-tanner Showdown that did that was the Ulta self-tanner. Wasn't as bad as that. That one was like incredibly uncomfortable. This was more of a slight itch, but I would say if you have super sensitive skin, just maybe one that you want to be aware of, but otherwise I'm sure it'll be fine for most people. I know that my skin is kind of an anomaly. Now, for the self-tanner that I was probably asked about the most after my last self-tan Showdown, the Bondi Sands self-tanner. So this is their self-tanning foam in the shade dark. This I would give a 4 out of 5 for ease of application. I kind of had the same issue with this as I did with this Bali Body mousse, where in certain areas the color bunched together and I did have to just take a couple extra steps of blending with a brush or a mitt to make sure that that was fully seamless, but that was really my only complaint with the application. This for dry, I would say I would give it like a 3.5 out of 5 because it did take a little bit of time to dry down fully, and I felt like the creases of my body, like inside my elbows, behind my knees, never fully dried actually, and they felt just wet all day. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like those crease areas tend to get the wettest with self-tanner and they just never seem to fully dry on me, which really, really bothers me. So I would give that like a 3.5 out of 5. No major issues with color transfer though, despite that kind of remaining stick. So I'd give that like a 4 out of 5 as well. Where this starts to kick it up a notch is with the smell. So the formula itself smells like coconut. It smells very, very nice, but it's not too overpowering. And this has zero smell on me while it's developing and after I rinse it off. I was honestly amazed. I just get so thrown off by that, knowing how bad some other self-tanners smell. I'm like, how do they do this? It's like magic. So pretty much scentless on me, and I left this on the skin for about 6 hours to get to this depth of color. Honestly, I would say for this, if you can leave it on for 8 hours, definitely do, because you will get a little bit of a darker color then. And unfortunately, this color was a really big letdown for me. I would give it like a 3 out of 5. It just wasn't as dark as I was hoping, especially for leaving it on for 6 hours. I really hope to have a nice dark amount of color at that point, and I just didn't feel that I did. But I'm not giving it a lower score because it wasn't something that was too orange or just, you know, too fake looking. So the actual tone of the color I thought was nice. I just wish that it was a lot darker. And then we kind of keep going downhill because I'd actually give the fade and lasting time a 3 out of 5 for both categories for this as well. It started to fade splotchy on me in more areas than just my neck. I would say that this is kind of, if I'm gonna splotch somewhere, it's probably on my neck no matter what, if I'm doing like sweaty workouts, or in this part of my arm. But I did start to just notice some splotching and unevenness just across my body, and almost all of the color was completely gone by day 5, with, I would say, major color fade by day 3. So really not a long-lasting self-tanner on me, which was really, really sad because I've heard such good things about this and I feel like people love it, and I don't know why I just couldn't quite get it to work out for me. So this is one that I personally wouldn't recommend based on my own experience, but again, I know so many people love it, so that doesn't mean it's a bad self-tanner. I mean, you guys get it. The purpose of my channel is just telling you guys what happens when I use stuff, and then you can go from there. The other Bondi Sands self-tanner that I have heard good things about that I needed to try out is their Aero self-tanning foam. So this is a 1 hour express formulation, and this one I would say gets a 5 out of 5 for ease of application. Didn't have any issues with it bunching up, and it does have a nicer formulation to work with in my opinion than their Mousse. It's just a little bit more lightweight. 5 out of 5 for drying ability for this one though, because it dries down pretty much instantly and it does not have any remaining kind of stickiness in crease areas of the body or anywhere else, so that's great. Color transfer, same thing, 4 out of 5. And compared to their original formulation, this one, same thing for smell. Doesn't smell while it's developing, doesn't smell after the fact. I left this one on for about 4 hours, hoping to have kind of a similar experience to this one from Bali Body, since they're both kinds of foams and both supposed to only be 1 hour express, but I was let down by this color as well after that amount of time. So I would be curious to see if I left this on for, let's say again, 6 to 8 hours, if this would get much darker, if this is just kind of as good as it gets. I would give this a 3 out of 5 as well, because it's just not dark enough for me. I do actually think that this would be a great self-tanner though if you have very, very fair skin and you pull cool or pink in undertone, because compared to other self-tanners, this one I think is a lot less orange, and because it's so light, it's not going to look as harsh as maybe other self-tanners would, again, if you have incredibly fair skin. 5 out of 5 for fading, no issues there with this, but this I would actually give a 3 out of 5 for lasting ability, because this faded even more quickly for me than this one right here. So all of my color was completely gone by day 5, and I feel like even by the second day I was like, did I even tan? It just was a big bummer. So again, I don't think this is the brand for me, but that is totally okay because I know it is the brand for some of you. Second to last was probably my second most highly requested brand after my last video, and that is St Tropez. So I have their Self Tan Express. This one is called an advanced 1 hour tan, but on the front here they say 1 hour gets you light color, 2 hours gets you medium color, 3 hours gets you darker color, which I appreciate because I really feel that that is the case with anything that claims to be just a 1 hour express. 5 out of 5 for ease of application. It has a nice lightweight formula. It's not too wet, pretty unassuming. Drying ability here, I would say, is like a good 4.5 out of 5. It dries almost instantly, but not as quick as something like this, which is now my benchmark for instant dry time. And this one I would give a 4 out of 5 for color transfer too. This smell is kind of difficult to explain because it doesn't have a specific scent like coconut, but it also doesn't smell bad. It's just kind of there a little bit, really nothing to call out for it. This one, I do get a smell while it's developing and after the fact, so I would give that like a 4 out of 5. I feel like none of these have been super bad for smell actually. Is Loving Tan the worst I've ever tried? Now that I'm thinking about it, that one smells. This one I like to leave on the skin for 4 to 5 hours in order to get the depth of color that I would like, and then I would give this color a solid 4 out of 5. I do think that it's really good. For me personally, I do prefer something a little bit darker if I can get it there, but I think that this is really pretty, and for those of you that don't want something that's intensely dark, I feel like you would really, really enjoy this. Fade for this one is a 5 out of 5, and lasting time I would say is closer to a 4 out of 5 for me. I do feel like it lasts 6 days on my skin where I have color, but I do have major color fade at probably about day 4. And the last self-tanner that I had to try is actually the one that I have on my skin right now. So this is the St Tropez with Ashley Graham collab. It's called their Self-Tan Luxe Whipped Cream Mousse. How fancy does that sound? I also love this black and white bottle. So cute. This formulation is pretty comparable to something like this Bali Body 1 Hour Express, where it's lighter weight and just kind of fluffier and more aerated than other self-tanning mousses and foams. For application though, something about this just kind of threw me off. I was able to blend it in fine, but I felt like there was kind of a stick to the formulation while I was blending. That just wasn't quite as easy to glide across the skin as some of these other ones. So I'd give that like a 4 out of 5 because it was nothing that was too difficult to work with or made it so that it was very streaky while you were applying, but there was just something a little bit different about this formula, especially compared to these others. And then for dry time, color transfer, and smell, I would give this a 4 out of 5 across the board. So it does eventually dry down completely. It just takes a little bit of time. No major issues with color transfer. The smell itself of the formulation is actually really, really nice. Kind of has like a fruity scent, but then it does kind of start to give you that not so great smell as it develops and after, but similar to all of these other ones, it's really nothing too bad. So 4 out of 5 across the board there. And this one is actually not a 1 Hour Express, so it does say to leave it on for 4 to 8 hours, and I left this on for 6 hours and feel like that gave me a really good amount of color. I would probably give this color like a 4.5 out of 5, because while it's maybe not quite as dark as I would like it to be, I actually think it's a really pretty color. Definitely not as orange as some others that I've tried, and just one that I think looks flattering on the skin. I do really like it. And then fade for this, I'd also give a 5 out of 5, and lasting time, I would say 4.5 out of 5 because it lasts a good 6 days and does seem to have a little bit of a darker color than this one on that 6th day. And those are all of the self-tanners that I wanted to walk through with you guys. I really hope that you found this helpful and that this video helped you to kind of narrow down which self-tanners you are most interested in. If you have tried any of these and have the same experience or a different experience to me, let me know in the comments below. I'm very curious to hear how many of you feel like this Bondi Sands is your favorite self-tanner. I just wish that that one worked for me because I had such high hopes, but yeah, would love to hear your thoughts on other self-tanners in the comments below. Do we want me to do a part 3? I definitely can. What I'm thinking is I could do both of these, a part 3 with all new different brands, and if that's the case, let me know which brands you want me to try out. Also, I definitely want to do now, after doing this, just a video on my favorite self-tanners. So like my top 3 all-time favorites that have the darkest color, that lasts the longest, that kind of just hit all of those marks as best as possible in my opinion. So if you want a video on that, let me know. And I also want to do a video where I compare self-tan drops. So if you would like to see that video, let me know which self-tan drops you want me to include to compare for that. But other than that, we have made it to the end of this video. So if you did enjoy it, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, click on that notification bell, and send my channel to a friend. If you appreciate the fact that I worked on this video for 12+ weeks, that would mean so much to me. It really does help to support me. Instagram and TikTok handles and my Lightroom preset filters, again, you can find in my description box below. Make sure to stay tuned for my next video because that will be up in a few days. But until then, I hope you have a great few days.